Hello, welcome. I would like to discuss in today's lesson the use of the piece of punctuation which is called the semicolon. Now if you look here, the semicolon is formed by using a dot on the top and a comma on the bottom. And the purpose of the semicolon is to let the reader know that a pause is needed in your writing. And the semicolon has three basic uses, and I would like to discuss the uses with you. The first one, the semicolon is used if you would like to join or to connect two complete thoughts. So it's a way of joining two ideas. So if you don't want to have two separate sentences by putting a period, a capital, and a new sentence, it's another method to add variety to your writing. So the two ideas must be closely related in order to use the semicolon, but they cannot be connected, these two ideas, with a coordinating word. And I've given you a list of the coordinating or joining words. So let me explain that a little more clearly with an example, two examples. The first one, my father ran over the garbage can. Litter was strewn all over the driveway. If you look closely at this sentence, you have two complete ideas. The first one, my father ran over the garbage can. The next one is litter was strewn all over the driveway. So there are different methods to add variety to your writing to join them. I guess one thing you could do is say my father ran over the garbage can, period, and then a capital, litter was strewn all over. Another method, which I've shown you here, is to actually use a semicolon to join the two ideas, but again, the ideas have to be closely related. So you'd say my father ran over the garbage can, semicolon, litter was strewn all over the driveway. Notice that you do not use a capital on litter. So after the semicolon, if you're joining two complete thoughts, you do not use a capital letter. Or another way you could have joined them is by using coordination. My father ran over the garbage can, so litter was strewn all over the driveway. When you use coordination, you'd use the comma and the joining word so. Let's look at the second example. He presented his report with graphs, charts, and diagrams. His boss was very impressed. You've got two complete thoughts. One way you might want to join them was to put a period after diagrams, then a capital on his boss was very impressed. Or we're demonstrating the use of the semicolon in this video, and here's how you would use it right here. After the first thought, he presented his report with graphs, charts, and diagrams, semicolon, your new idea, but no capital. His boss was very impressed. So that's a second way that you could have joined the ideas. Or another method, he presented his report with graphs, charts, and diagrams. And again, I've used one of the coordinating words, which are listed up here. So, with the comma. His boss was very impressed. So that's the first rule I would like to point out. Semicolons are used to join two complete ideas, and you do not put a capital at the start of the second idea. Let's look at the second use of semicolons. Semicolons are used between two sentences if the two sentences are joined by something called a transition word. And these transition words, which I will show you a list of them momentarily, when you have the transition word, you place the semicolon before the transition word, and you're going to put a comma after the transition word. So sometimes when you just read rules, it's a little bit confusing, but I think if you look at the example, and I'll explain it to you, it'll make it a lot easier to follow. Here's a list of common transition words that you should familiarize yourself with. And you always put the semicolon before the word and the comma after when you're using a transition word to join two thoughts. Also, as a result, besides, consequently, finally, for example, furthermore, however, in addition, in fact, instead, moreover, nevertheless, on the other hand, otherwise, then, therefore, and thus. So let's look at two examples that I provided you with to show you how you can analyze these sentences. We'll look at them together to see how you use the semicolon, the transition word, and the comma properly. The first example, Susan completed her English essay. However, she forgot to pack it in her school bag. So by using this word, however, you're giving some emphasis, you're explaining further. You don't want to just say Susan completed her English essay, period. She forgot to pack it in her school bag. You want to emphasize and you want to use some form of transition between your two ideas. So in this case, you put the semicolon before the transition word, then the transition word, and then the comma. In the second example, the storm was severe. In fact, power was out for 12 hours. By using the transition word in fact, you're stressing the point that it was very severe, the storm. It was so bad that in fact, the power was out for 12 hours. So in this use of transition word here, you've got the semicolon again, you've got your transition, and you've got the comma. So that's the second important use of the semicolon. And the final use of semicolons will be here. Semicolons are used to separate items in a series of phrases if they contain commas. Now let's take a look at what this means. Take a look at these two examples. The first one, we toured Paris, France, Ottawa, Canada, and Athens, Greece. Now if you look at this sentence, each one of these is a unit. We toured Paris, France, Ottawa, which is in Canada, and Athens, which is the capital. They're capital cities and countries. So you cannot use commas because you didn't tour Paris, France, Ottawa, Canada, Athens, Greece. You're implying that those are 6 cities. So one unit is Paris, France, the semicolon, Ottawa, Canada, the semicolon, and then Athens, Greece. In the second example, he works with John, his colleague, Betty, his sister, and Louise, his aunt. Again, it's a unit. John is his colleague, Betty is his sister, and Louise is his aunt. So if the writer only used commas in this example, then if you were reading that, you would think that you were referring to 6 people, being John. If it was all commas, it would be John, then there's his colleague is 2, Betty would be 3, the sister's the 4th person, Louise would be the 5th, and the aunt is the 6th. So therefore, you're dividing it into units. So John would be his colleague, Betty is his sister, and Louise is his aunt. So those are the 3 main uses of the semicolon. I'd like you to please keep in mind that the semicolon will add variety to your writing, but you really need to be careful that you use it correctly. If you're not certain, then you may want to use other methods of punctuation to avoid making errors in your writing. But it is a good idea to understand the rules because using the semicolon will add some depth to your writing. I hope you find these rules clear, and please feel free to contact me if you do have any further questions at InTheEnglishCorner.com. Thank you so much and have a good day. Bye-bye.